dear Walter Becker, President of CD&V, dear Herman Van Rompuy, President of the European Council, dear Chris Peters, Minister President of the Flemish government, dear Peter de Crème, Vice Prime Minister of Belgium, dear Koen Gens, Belgian Minister of Finance, dear Marianne Thyssen and Ivo Bellet, members of the European Parliament, dear Sibran Bouma, President of the CDA in the Netherlands, honourable members of parliaments, dear friends from CD&V and EPP. Let me start by saying that I sincerely regret that it is completely impossible for me to be present at your meeting. Yet, I want to tell you that I feel deeply honoured by the invitation to speak to you today. I am therefore happy that I have this opportunity via this video message to address my special European greetings to you. Dear friends from CD&V, I would like to congratulate and to thank you. What you are doing today, inviting for a public debate on Europe, is exactly what is needed. We need to bring Europe to our citizens. We want our citizens to exchange their views about Europe, to express their views and expectations, and, of course, to give their active support to our common European project. We need people like you who take the initiative to meet on Saturday mornings to make the case for Europe. We need people who take ownership of Europe. And why is that so important? We all know that many member states and citizens in Europe are going through very difficult times. High levels of debt, weak economic growth, and in some places recession and high levels of unemployment. In particular, youth unemployment. These are the most serious challenges we face. As President of the European Commission during the past years, I have been working almost day and night against this crisis, together with many of you and other friends from the EPP, including Wilfried Martens, your former party leader, and today President of the European People's Party. But one thing must be said very clearly, time and again. This crisis, that sometimes is presented as the euro crisis, is not in itself a crisis of the euro. The euro remains a strong, credible, very important currency. And Europe and the euro are not responsible for today's problems. In fact, we have this problem of the financial crisis in many countries that are not members of the euro. The reality is that Europe is not the cause of the problem. Europe is the answer to the problem. Thanks to the European dimension of our common currency and our single market, we have all the means and chances to overcome this crisis. By using the European framework, its instruments for discipline and solidarity, we can and will return to sound public finances, will carry out structural reforms which are long overdue, and will create the conditions so that confidence and investment can return. The times of growth based on debt are over. We are now building a Europe based on sustainable growth. And we know, by very difficult experience, that growth based on debt, public debt or private debt, was simply not sustainable. And the European Union is already making progress in this direction. Not only we have been correcting many of the imbalances, namely in terms of the huge deficits, but the competitiveness of some of our most vulnerable countries is slowly improving. Their debt and interest rates are falling. Their exports rates are rising. But it is a process that takes time, commitment and stamina. And yes, it is true. It is a process that in the short term is sometimes a very difficult one, demanding sacrifices from our citizens. That's why I believe we must remain intellectually honest and politically honest. and refrain from creating false expectations in the short term. The reality is that when the crisis emerged, some of our countries were at the abyss. We had to send 5 workers and architects for building a sustainable model of Europe at the same time. In fact, without the support of the European Union, and namely in the euro area, some of our countries would be out of the euro. They would be most likely a situation of disorderly insolvency, with potentially dramatic consequences, economically and socially, and of course with a dramatic consequence for the European project as a whole. It is therefore an illusion to believe that turning our back to Europe is a solution. No, it will be a disaster. As I said, it is not Europe who is responsible for our problems. As we know, the problems were created either by irresponsible behavior in some parts of the financial sector or by irresponsible public debts in many of our governments. We must not allow that this populist argument, who claim that the easy solution to our citizens will be to put in question the basic principles of the European integration. This is why the next European elections in May 2014 are so important. This is why Europe needs people like you to speak up, to take position, to form a grand coalition of the pro-Europeans. I believe that it is important at this time that the parties that have a responsibility at national level also have a European dimension. And that we have not, as that happened so often in the past, a real split, a cleavage between what is debated at national level and at the European level. And as you know, in the European elections, very often we have not the real European election, but a collection of 27 or 28 now national elections. So I count on the leaders and the parties that are basically pro-European to leave the comfort zone and to come out with a proactive, courageous position on Europe, not leaving the initiative to some of the Eurosceptics or Europhobes that we see now in Europe, sometimes hiding behind very unfair arguments against Europe and sometimes even against the values that are at the core of our European culture and European civilization. Dear friends, I know very well that Belgian Christian democracy and the CD&V in particular have always been and will stay a convinced partner, a convinced, solid and reliable believer and advocate of the European integration, in difficult as much as in easy times. The European project is so important for the future of all of us that it needs political courage in the serious crisis we face today. That's why I say very often that it is easy to be pro-European in nice times. What I like to see is the pro-Europeans to keep their determination in the difficult times. That's why I really hope that you remain straightforward in your European conviction and why I wish you very sincerely all good luck and success in the future. Dames en heren, bedankt voor uw aandacht.